For those online, this meeting's being recorded.
Good evening, everyone. Could all members and officers in attendance please mute your electronic devices to avoid feedback? And could remote participants please keep their cameras and microphones off unless they wish to speak, as this can affect the quality of the meeting. The meeting is being live webcast and recording will stay on the council's website. I would like to welcome everyone to this evening's hybrid Sheppey area committee meeting, including those attending remotely. The follows Borough Council officer in attendance. Emma Wiggins will join us shortly, the Director of Regeneration and Neighbourhood. We have the Community and Partnership Manager, Sarah Jane Radley. Capital Project Manager, Inga Lorraine. Capital Projects Officer, Zoe, how do I say his name? Henshaw. And Policy and Engagement Officer, Janet Dark. I would also like to welcome Chief Inspector Vanessa Foster from Kent Police, who will be joining us remotely. Do we have any parish or town council in attendance? Would you like to indicate? Thank you, John and Ben.
Oh, please down.
Yeah, and there's lots of double hatters. Okay, we won't go through them all. Otherwise, Peter will be here forever. Ben, yes. If you'd like to speak on any item, please raise your hand. I'll invite you in turn to speak. Likewise, could anyone attending remotely please mute the microphone if they are asked to speak and indicate on the instant messenger or raise your hand function if you wish to speak. Sarah Paul, would you like to speak?
Yeah, it was only to introduce myself. I'm the clerk at Eastchurch Parish Council. Unfortunately, our parish councillors couldn't attend tonight, so I'm attending for them.
Thank you. Agenda item 1, emergency evacuation procedure. Please be aware of the evacuation procedure to follow an event of emergency. There is no scheduled testing of fire alarm during this meeting. If the alarm does sound, please leave the building via the quickest route without collecting possessions. And will assemble outside the front of the building as directed. And please wait for instruction before re-entering the building. Should anyone require assistance, please make this known to us now.
Fire exits are at the back.
Okay, agenda item 2. Janet, do we have any apologies?
Yes, we have apologies from Councillor Andy Boo, Councillor Mike Whiting, Councillor Mark Tucker, and Councillor Pete Neal.
Councillor Leanne Moore as well.
Leanne Moore, thank you very much.
Okay, agenda item 3. Do we have any declarations of interest? No declarations of interest. Okay. The members agree to the minutes of the meeting held on the 19th of September 2024, minutes number 252 to 268. That's the correct record. Great. That is agreed. Thank you, Peter. Agenda item 5, we have a police update, and that's followed by a community safety update. So I'd like to welcome back Chief Inspector Vanessa Foster from Kent Police, who joined us last December in this same room. Welcome, Vanessa.
Evening, everyone. Apologies, I can't be there in person. I've been up the other end of the county for majority of the day, so I'm staying up this end. Better to dial in than not attend, because we've got some fantastic updates I'd like to showcase for you all.
Okay, dive in, please.
Okay, if I could just start with just giving an update on the neighbourhood unit, which went live last June, and just to let you know where the staffing is, because I think the last update I gave you, we weren't at full capacity in relation to the staffing, particularly for the island. We've gone 18 months into the new neighbourhood model, and I'm pleased to say that the island is fully staffed with 5 beat officers and 2 dedicated PCSOs. I have a full neighbourhood task team, which consists of 4 PCs and 4 PCSOs. And I currently am 3 people short on my beat officers. However, the beat officers have taken on extra responsibilities in terms of wards. So all the wards are actually covered at this time. The best thing that happened to our department was in May was the child centre policing team went live. That consists of 1 sergeant, 4 PCs and 2 PCSOs. And the work has been invaluable that they have done, coupled with Richard Hughes, who works on the island, to see a massive reduction in the ASB that has been taking place. So I say this specifically to Sheerness. The team have worked tirelessly this year to adapt and change what we learnt from last year. Last year, we were firefighting ASB, and we learnt a lot from the fact that actually we needed to change our approach to it. This year, we've managed to get the child centre policing team very much embedded back into the schools, which we found has played a real part in having that joint partnership work with some troubled families and individuals, which has seen that we've been able to divert key players in ASB into other schemes that we've had funded, luckily from the council, the government, and we've raised some funds ourselves. This summer on the island, we introduced a project called Sports Connect, which is a diversionary football scheme that is there for young individuals from the age of 11 right through to 17 who can get diverted into the football scheme and out of those areas of trouble which they found themselves constantly being in. Now, that scheme was open to everybody, but what was happening is the beat officers and the child centre policing team was picking out those that they thought needed some assistance and some additional support with their family. As a result of doing that, we saw an uptake in the scheme that we've actually had to duplicate the scheme across the whole of Swale, and we've had to put on additional diversionary schemes because they were so popular. One of those now being a boxing club and a fishing club, which we have now diverted youth into. That, coupled with taking more robust action with those that didn't adhere to any of our incentive schemes, they've had a much stringent, robust action taken with runs on the ladder, such as starting off with taking the individuals home. If they didn't, they were then given an ASB letter. If they breached the ASB letter, then we would go down the more formal route of voluntary interviews, arrests, and in some cases, we've charged some youths. So we haven't stood by this year in any shape or form and let this happen or escalate to the point that it was last year. I'm really proud of the work that the officers have done, and they've been very collaborative internally with our volume-based crime team who deal with the investigations that falls out of the ASB to identify those individuals quicker, to take the action a lot quicker for those that are responsible, and identify those that are right to escalate into the criminal justice system and divert those that we think stand a chance at actually changing their behaviour. So it's been a brilliant scheme this year. The island has seen a 40% reduction in ASB this year compared to last year, and I attribute that to a massive success of the child centre policing team, who personally take the responsibility for individuals and their families to working them out of some of their behaviour that is learnt, been repetitive in a family, and actual fact are now changing the course for some of those individuals with certain names that have only ever known crime within their family. So really good work that has happened there. If I move from ASB into our shoplifting arena, Swale this year has actually seen a 10% increase in our charge rate and our solvability rate for shoplifting. Last year we were at about 21%. The rolling year showed, as of today, we're at 32% charge rate for shoplifting, which is one of the highest in the counties. We've attributed that to identifying those on prison releases that are coming out quicker, the beat officers understanding the prolific offenders within their wards and identifying those shops of vulnerability where we've worked closely with them to identify evidence captures for early opportunities of identifications. Recidivist offenders have all been arrested, dealt with and remanded, and we have a high success of remand cases where they are in prison the next day. It might be for a short period of time, but actually that gives some respite to the offending, and it shows each month on month you can see where those that have been put into the prison, you have a massive reduction the next month. But what we have managed to do is track those individuals when they come out. We are quick to learn where they're living, the areas that they're in, and then we jump on their behaviour instantly. So whereas before they might have shoplifted 11 times, let's say, before we would have arrested them just through the fact that they could go on a spree so quick, we're down to most of our recidivist offenders not getting past 2 or 3 shopliftings at a time now before they're arrested and put before the court. So I've worked really hard with the retail park particularly over at Sittingbourne and Sittingbourne High Street, where we've listened to shopkeepers, we've understood the problems, and then we've mirrored that in those local co-ops, Morrison's, Tesco's Expresses, that all have those same vulnerabilities. Equally, the little shop corners, Nisa's, local traders. So the shoplifting element, which actually attributes then to part of our ASB, it's worked really well with the beat officers identifying those offenders and being part of that solution to the reoffending. So great work this year in relation to that. I'm pleased to report that our violent crime is at one of the lowest it's been for several years. We haven't had many impromptu, unprovoked attacks. Any of those that have been are usually those that are known to each other within their circle of friends, offending, drug type related incidences. So I'm happy to report that Swale, I consider, and the stats would consider, that it is a safe environment for people to just go about their business, not to be randomly attacked or robbed or assaulted. Don't get me wrong, there have been occasions where we have had some incidences which have been isolated, but we've worked tirelessly to identify opportunities and evidence to bring those offenders into the criminal justice system quickly and ensure that that behaviour stops instantly. And that's by having the highest sanction at the earliest opportunity to stamp out that type of behaviour. But I'm pleased to report that that isn't something that we've had in the last 12 months of any concerns. We still remain with Sheerness High Street and Sittingbourne High Street to be the two government funded hotspots. Again, we've had a lot of money and additional funding to give an uplift in officers that we can patrol those areas 7 days a week. We heighten those at school holidays, and the council, through the Safer Street fundings, have given us street marshals, which we've worked with, and the Shop Safe radio, to ensure that we've got a joint up approach when we are dealing particularly with the school holidays, any time of the year, the half terms, the full terms, and the 6 weeks in the summer. The street marshals have proved very beneficial for us. We find that people engage with them very well because they're not somebody that's necessarily going to take the action or the perceived threat that the police officer might have. They've been a useful tool for gaining evidence and intelligence for us so that we can understand who the people are in the high streets that have been causing certain issues. And again, like I say, working with the child-centred team and the beat officer, we've been able to put interventions in place and make sure that we do home visits very quickly on those that we think might be bubbling in the arena to cause antisocial behaviour. We've also continued with our VORG strategy, which is one of Kent Police's main priorities, along with the national priority. Centre at the moment, in the last 2 months, my focus has been to bring domestic abuse suspects into custody quickly, efficiently, and bring those offenders to justice. We have a high rate across the county in relation to suspects which need to be arrested, because what happens sometimes is when we turn up to those calls, the suspects make off before we get there. We've worked relentlessly at making sure that that isn't for much longer than 24 hours, so that we find that there's no repeat offending and that the victim is safeguarded at the earliest opportunity by bringing that offender into custody and putting the necessary provisions in place to safeguard those. So the VORG strategy remains at the forefront. That, coupled with our nighttime economy strategy, whereby Friday, Saturday evenings predominantly, they are policed in the towns for after hours venues, such as pubs and the very limited clubs that we do have in the Swale area, that we have officers that are present with those, engaging with females in those areas to support and make sure that they get home safely, are safe, but also doing licensing initiatives to ensure that bystanders, i.e. the staff in those venues, know what it is that they are to look for, particularly with lone males or females perhaps that have had a little bit too much to drink or might appear out of the normal, along with our Ask Angela campaign. And we're certainly taking that forward into Christmas now, knowing that Christmas party season is well underway, and that's a time of year where sadly we see a slight spike in those type of events. So we will see, make sure that we are policing those robustly on those evenings with a dedicated unit every Friday and Saturday night in Swale for those. I quite welcome any questions that anybody has Those are the highlights and the success stories that we have currently going on in Swale. It's been a really positive 12 months. There was a lot that we learned from last year. There's a lot that we changed, put in place, changed the staff, embedded another team, and for that, I believe Swale has seen a really positive turn of events. And as of tomorrow, I believe Kent Online are going to be showcasing some of the work that has been taking place with some definitive stats to show exactly what Kent Police have done in the last 15 months. So I welcome any questions.
Okay, thank you. First up, I've got Councillor Nundy.
Thank you, Chair. Good
Do you
evening.
want to come forward just so that Mike can pick you up?
Good evening, Chief Inspector. Thank you for the update. It is greatly appreciated. And thank you for the update specifically on VORG. As I'm sure you're aware, we are in the 16 days of activism against violence against women and girls. And over the past 5 years, domestic abuse has risen by 37% in Kent. And as it currently stands, 20% of all crime that takes place in Kent is related to domestic abuse. Funding for these services is unclear at the moment because the autumn budget that was published a few weeks ago didn't make it clear about some of the funding streams that the council has been able to utilise through the police and crime commissioner. So I understand that at the moment you're able to put in the extra effort to try and protect women and girls, and I know that you've worked really well with the CSP. I know you've played an active role in it, particularly around engaging with Swale Borough Council in terms of how to make Swale safer and some of the work that you've done with the Safer Streets funding. But with the funding being in limbo at the moment, what reassurances can Kent Police give during the 16 days of activism against violence against women and girls to ensure that their health, safety and well-being will not suffer a detriment due to the funding channels closing?
I can only comment on behalf of what Kent Police will do. The domestic violence strategy has been the forefront of our Kent control strategy for the last 2 to 3 years. It is a priority within our force. It's a priority at Swale. It is something that won't subside. It will always be a focus. And our part in that will be to ensure that we do the early safeguarding with victims and we bring the offenders into custody swiftly. Then it's about how we then conclude the investigation, whether that's a charge there and then. We put bail conditions to safeguard the victim whilst we go to the Crown Prosecution Service for advice, or we have a domestic violence protection order, which we can use as a civil remedy, which lasts for a month. And if the offender breaches that, they get put before the court straight away. So in relation to Kent Police, our stance won't change. We will continue as we are. The officers in the case, and in particularly in the domestic violence unit, they will be working with those charities as best they can. With the constraints on the charities might be a slight problem, but we will always have victim support services. There will always be DA charities out there. I can't comment on the other side as to how that would look when their funding goes, but for us, we will still be working in the same way, and if not harder, to make sure that we safeguard those victims if some of those services do subside.
Thanks for your answer. Councillor No.
Thank you. Do you need me to come up?
Depends how loud you can be.
I'm pretty loud. Okay. I just wanted to commend you on the Sports Connect scheme. It's really great and it's amazing to hear how much of an effect it's having. I just actually wanted to let you know that I teach teenagers 16 to 18. This morning, I actually heard them talking about this scheme and they were really excited about it, about both the football and the boxing. So I just wanted to let you know that it really is getting through on our side as well. I wanted to know though, is this focused on the more built up areas and towns, or how are you reaching the rural or semi-rural areas?
So given the funding, we have to be smart about where we use it. So a lot of it is going to be primarily data led. So where is the spike and the hotspots for that type of behaviour? So Thistle Hill currently, the Sports Connect is moving there for the next 6 weeks because that's where the data suggests that we've got an issue that needs to be resolved, and we believe that Sports Connect is the right way to do that. The more rural will be challenging, and sadly some might be slightly disadvantaged from that scheme. But also I couple that with there isn't the same issues in certain areas, which doesn't necessarily warrant that scheme as well. So yeah, that it's not ideal, I must say, but it's about being smart with the funding and the resource that we have to combat what is perceived a bigger problem in one area and sadly not so in another.
Thank you.
Councillor McDonald, please.
Yes, Peter MacDonald, councillor. One of my other hats is chairman of the Old Borough Hall at Queenborough. We had an incident some weeks ago now where two youths separately smashed some of the double glazed windows, which is quite expensive. We run that as a charity. Who shall I contact? Because we've tried chasing it. CCTV was produced and nothing's happened, and we've heard nothing back, I'm sad to say. Obviously, it's a fairly mundane thing because you've got various serious things to actually deal with, but nonetheless, to our charity, it's something like £400 worth of damage. So it's not fair. So the parents did say they were going to pay, but of course they haven't. And the youths, I think, probably need their collars felt a bit. We're not bothered with them actually being prosecuted because that will stick with them for the rest of their life. But they ought to know that it's a serious thing to go smashing people's windows. Thank you.
I totally agree. I think if we don't stop behaviour like that in its infancy, it'll only escalate. And that's exactly where my focus has been this last 12 months, is particularly dealing with those individuals and how do we make them better people. And if they don't understand the consequence of their behaviour, it doesn't stop. I used to be a restorative justice practitioner. I believe wholeheartedly in youths listening to their victims to understand firsthand what their behaviour has as an impact. So I will get the beat officer, I believe that's Hannah Savage. I will contact her after this meeting and make sure that she follows that up, because I don't believe that you say it's minor, it's not. Everybody's crime is relative to them. So nothing is more or less important to people. Every crime to a victim is the same importance, I believe. So that type of thing, if you haven't heard, worries me. So I will make sure that I follow that up for you and make sure that somebody is in touch with you. Janet, if I could just ask that you email me the details, please, after the meeting. And I will follow that up from you, because that's the type of people that we want to get into. And if we've got parents who are saying those things, which makes, to me, I go, cool, that's nice that the parents are doing that. Well, let's hold them to account in a bit more of a formal setting. And it doesn't have to be putting them in the criminal justice system, but we have a thing called a community resolution where both parties sign up to an agreement as to how they resolve the crime. And I believe that would be perfect for those individuals. So I will follow that up for you.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed.
Councillor Worcester, come on down.
Thank you.
No, don't speak to you.
Good evening, Inspector Foster.
Hello.
I've got three for you, unfortunately. The first is we've seen along Marine Parade an escalation in very serious road traffic incidents. Some of those regarding speeding, some of them regarding antisocial driving. There are a couple of measures coming forward, hopefully, from KCC, but I'd really like reassurance that we can call on Kent Police to be looking and focusing on that area so that we can reassure residents that actually it is taken seriously. Because even if the speed limit is reduced there, it is pointless unless we've got enforcement in that area. I'd like to support a permanent speed camera in that area, but until that is able to come forward, can we rely on Kent Police's support in terms of speed guns potentially in that area?
Yeah, no, you're right to raise that. Marine Parade is it's a bit of a drag race for antisocial behaviour in vehicles. You're absolutely right, and I'm pleased that KCC is on board with taking those longer term preventative measures. Speed camera would be ideal there. We do have a speed gun, and I do have people intermittently out and about, but really what it needs it's that nighttime behaviour. I have an op called Op Wallaby, which is designated to antisocial nuisance vehicles. They spend their time between Marine Parade and Ridham Docks. I have a dedicated team on a Friday that will hunt out those areas where we have the most data related to nuisance vehicles. We'll have static patrols, which are marked and unmarked. We take license plates. We give Section 59 antisocial behaviour warnings in relation to their vehicles. And if they're seen the same evening causing the same thing, we seize their car. So we do take that really seriously, because particularly this time of year, I'm concerned with drink drivers. We have a big campaign now in relation to Kent Police promoting, and the Chief Inspector for that campaign I just saw today is urging officers to go and do 30-minute static road checks over the course of their shift, to make sure that we enforce those locations we know about would most likely be used for either drink drivers or nuisance vehicles. So yes, we are on top of that.
Would you potentially go a step further? Both wards of Minster and Sheerness are producing highway improvement plans. Is there anything Kent Police could do to stand in support of those plans to help us show KCC exactly that these residents see that as a priority and we would like to move faster rather than slower? And that would, of course, free up resources for Kent Police if we were able to achieve a static camera in that area.
Yeah, we support any data that you need. So when it comes to those initiatives, what we usually do with KCC is we provide them with the data, which then says, look, this is where the problems are. This is the amount of calls that we've had, or accidents, or something along those lines. So if you needed some stats to support your evidence, then that is the way that KCC will work going forward. And of course, we can assist with that.
Lovely. The second point is around antisocial behaviour, especially regarding both McDonald's in Sheerness and McDonald's in Sittingbourne. Just this week, we've had a serious assault on a minor in McDonald's. This is a regular occurrence, and unfortunately, staff were brought in on that ward, which means that now we have people worried about working at McDonald's. It does provide local jobs. It is in a area that is accessed by teens. What exactly is your plans around that, and how do we intend to support staff in their goal to just operate a business lawfully?
Okay, so the beat officer, particularly for Sheerness, has a very good working relationship with the manager at McDonald's. So we've offered preventative advice, we've offered bystander training, all of which has been taken on board. There's certain policies that the company also adheres to that we can't influence. So whilst we might say to them, have you thought about turning off the Wi-Fi? Have you thought about age limits for those that go in on their own? They still have a business to run and want to invite everybody. So what we do is we make sure that at the peak times that we have somebody in the area, not to police it, because that isn't our job. They also have their own security there, which I need to be mindful of. So they have people there that are in place to support the staff that work there. What we will do is, one, enforce and support the staff, but we'll take any action that is necessary swiftly. The incident that happened up at McDonald's in Sittingbourne, not this Saturday, the Saturday before, where a staff member was headbutted. Within 2 days, I had 3 youths in custody, and they're now been reported to the youth offending team for cautions. So we are really good at identifying those. The beat officers know who the individuals are. We can't always be there. There is that as well, but we do respond, and they are a priority within my local policing team, that they're to answer the 999 calls to there. And I have set specific actions as a minimum that they are meant to take when they go to those calls, so that we can apprehend those that escalate their behaviour that isn't actually just antisocial behaviour and it fits a crime remit. So I have a meeting with McDonald's and Morrison's on the retail park on Thursday to discuss going forward more strategies around how we can support them and some of the antisocial behaviour that they've seen, particularly in Sittingbourne.
For the Sheerness McDonald's, though, are you considering dispersal orders just as much as you're considering dispersal orders for Sittingbourne?
Yes, but we don't have the same gravitas that we do in Sittingbourne. In actual fact, we've seen a reduction in the calls relating to McDonald's in Sheerness. Whilst the perception might be that there are youths there, that is not always meaning that there is activity taking place. Like I said, we have a really good relationship with the staff there. The local officers do. And usually 9 times out of 10, they're radioed through and they're there before it even happens. They're moved on don't come back, don't cause a problem. So whilst I could put a dispersal zone in to combat that, they're already doing it without the need of the zone. I don't want to be putting on dispersal zones for the sake of them. They've got to be meaningful. And also we want people to feel that they're safe. If the officers can deal with it before it escalates, then I'd rather they do that.
Brilliant. And obviously we'd like to add our thanks to PC Hughes and PC Honis, because their work in Sheerness on a creative individual basis is absolutely unheard of. It's excellent work, and every single time they come to a town council meeting, they are answering the questions that councillors have got for them around the exact issues that residents are bringing up. So you are right, I feel, that they are able to predict what residents are worried about. The last thing, unfortunately, is a bit more of a serious matter. I attended a cost of living meeting today over at Swale, where lots of partners attend, and something new came up for me, which is the cost of living creating the opportunity, the unfortunate opportunity, that families are seeking prostitution or sex work to be able to help fund issues regarding the cost of living. Is that on your radar? And is there anything we can do to make sure that we're taking appropriate actions at a school level? Because it wasn't just mothers and fathers, it was teenage children that were being cited as being part of this. And obviously using the platform OnlyFans as a lead-in to this, it's incredibly serious. And for my shame, I'm upset that I didn't know about it earlier. But is that on your radar at all?
No, I was completely, if I'm honest, I was completely unaware that that was even an issue or a way of resolving the cost of living crisis for some individuals. I can assure you that I am hot on any intelligence where I believe there may be a brothel. Those are dealt with really robustly and quickly with joint agencies. We don't hang about with those because of the vulnerabilities that they play, certainly. But no, I've not heard of it, anything in relation to individuals going that far. What I would say is, in today's world with yous and OnlyFans, social media, a lot of individuals will think that actually being influential or using their looks might be a way of earning more money, because a lot of, if you ask some children, what do you want to be when you grow up, and they say an influencer, sadly, that is probably part of the makeup of society today. That seems an easy way to earn money. Prostitution, I hope it hasn't gone that far, but I could understand why some might say OnlyFans. But there'll be strict conditions in relation to those. But any information that my child centre policing team gets in relation to those, I can assure you we will wrap our arms around them and do our best to get them out of that.
Well, the Community Safety Partnership were at that meeting today, so hopefully we can encourage them to pass over all relevant information, if that would be okay.
Absolutely fine. If I don't know about it, I can't deal with it. The minute I know about it, I can do something about it.
Brilliant. Thanks for asking my question. Sorry it's so long.
That's all right.
Listen, please.
Now, you know, normally I would object to my voice, but having had a fortnight with no voice, I'm not going to try projecting it. Vanessa, very refreshing. Thank you very much. Now, tell me if I'm right or wrong. We all have antisocial behaviour. You just keep reporting it, and you've got priorities, you work on the biggest pile. So if I'm reporting it on behalf of 30 people, that is no good. We need the 30 people to report it in repeatedly. Great. Because what we're getting is, well, I've reported it twice and nothing's happened. I mean, what are you doing as the councillor? Well, I could go around there with a taser if they gave me one plea, but they still won't. So really that is what I wanted to know, that the process is you just keep reporting it. You look at these lists every week, same as you used to do for CCTV requests, and you look at not the highest priority, you look at the biggest pile, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And if my local one is the biggest pile, then they're on your list to get round there and kick in doors or whatever.
What I'll have to say is, again, if I don't know about it, I can't deal with it. And what my figures have shown is an increase in the rolling year of antisocial behaviour. But it's not an increase in the behaviour. What it is an increase in reporting. So what is good about that is the fact that the more people report it, I can identify and map, well, where's the locations of most interest? But now I've got beat officers in those areas, they can deal with that and they can deal with it quickly. I think what the problem is when someone calls in about antisocial behaviour, if they don't get the service or the officer turn up there and then, they think we're not doing anything about it. So let's put it into perspective. You've got some kids down the corner, they're rowdy, they're this, they're that. But we've got officers that need to go to save a life and limb type call. They're going to go to that first. But that data doesn't get ignored. That data to me, I can deal with the stuff I know about and send them out to on fast cars to the other stuff. But to solve a problem, first I need to know what the problem is, and then I need to know what I'm working with. And then I'll do things like perception surveys in those areas. Tell me what it is that's really the problem. What's the heart of it? What do you perceive it to be? And then what I'll do is surge activity. So I'll send officers in en masse at certain points and times, and we'll go in and just hit it. We'll make sure that we go in where the problem is, deal with it, and then see what the fallout is as a result of that. If it's then a continuation, we need to change our strategy. And by that, it might be that we put some people, like I say, on the ladder of the system which we trust. But it might be a case of we identify people who are really vulnerable. And we need to assist them with some partners and make sure we refer them right back into the right mechanisms that can support that family. So yes, information for me is key. Intelligence is how we lead. So yes, that's a great advocate, but I would please put back to your constituents that it is not always going to provide a service there and then. We wouldn't necessarily always attend those. What we would do is certainly build the picture. But yes, the beat officer will start to follow those up when they're at full capacity individually, the calls. But we do need definitely some more calls collectively to then start worrying about a problem. But thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Thank you. So from me, obviously we've got 5 beat officers across the island. Are we expecting an additional one at all? Because at the moment we've got 1 officer between Minster Cliff Wards and Sheppey Central. Are we going to get 1 each? Because Thistle Hill is a massive problem in my ward of Sheppey Central. And I think it'd be nice if we had 1 officer concentrating on each ward. But I do work on Sport Connect, and I know the parish council would, if you struggle with funding, would be happy to look to see how they can help you with that.
I'd love to give you an officer per ward. I'd love to. At this stage, I'm at the capacity with the island. What it is for me is having the right people in the right places, and personality does matter. Knowing individuals and officers, it's just like anything. You need those that are driven by certain things, those with specialisms, those that you think would tap into that better. So Thistle Hill, if I come on to that, it's got the Sports Connect scheme there for the next 6 weeks. But I raised Thistle Hill as a tasking for the whole of Swale district, which is also goes county-wide. It can be viewed county-wide. So our tactical operations departments like the road policing unit or firearms, they can default to that location as part of a tasking. So that the local policing team will default there in their own time in between the calls. Because I recognise that did have quite an antisocial behaviour problem. Again, the data told me that. My intelligence, my local officers said Thistle Hill needs some additional support. So I created that as a tasking so that you would get more than just the beat officer. You would get that 7-day-a-week coverage with officers that have to default to that location. So again, we will pick areas at poignant times to bolster. So whilst I can't give you a dedicated another officer, I have just given you ineffectively another 100 officers that are told to default there between calls.
Okay, and with your officer support, we now have an additional camera in Thistle Hill monitored by the Swale CCTV Centre. So I'm thankful officers for his support when I put that request in.
I think that'll pay dividends down there. I think it'll be really good.
It's already making an impact. Okay, thank you. I'm going to move on to Sarah Jane. Would you like to provide your community update? Vanessa, do you want to stay for this, or you're free to run away?
If it's all right with yourselves, I will bow out of this one and I'll see you next Tuesday.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
That's why. Sorry.
Good evening, everybody. I'm the Community and Partnerships Manager at Borough Council. I am part of the Community Safety, my team is part of the Community Safety Unit, and I've been asked to just update you with regards to our priority setting. So the Community Safety Partnership, it's a statutory partnership that brings together a number of agencies and we tackle crime, antisocial behaviour, substance misuse, and to look at reducing reoffending. We have a plan that is reduced each year, and with that plan we set out our priorities for the following year. So currently we're in the process of reviewing that plan and looking at how are the current priorities the right ones, and whether or not we need to review those priorities for the coming year. We undertake consultation through this process, so we will speak to a number of different groups and etc. So that's why we're bringing it here to you guys today. There is a survey, an online survey, which we can share out through the minutes with everybody, and we would really ask that you take a look at that survey and comment on the current priorities, whether you think there's any upcoming issues or things that we're missing in the current plan, or what we should be looking at for the next plan. I think that was if you have any questions or you would like further information, by all means, my contact details will be shared after as well. That one. Move on. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, next item 6, empowering you as well, again is being presented by Sarah Jane.
Okay, so empowering you in Swale. The background around this document is that the council previously had a health and wellbeing strategy, which ended in July 2023. Put your hand up, Dolly.
Oh, sorry, did you see that there's somebody online that had their hand up with the 12?
Seems a bit hangover from earlier.
Yes, that strategy ended because we reviewed the structure of the team and the service delivery that the whole service area are delivering, and there were some changes around what that delivery looks like. So although health and wellbeing is still very much a priority, it is now incorporated into the bigger picture across the whole of the service area. And that's where the development of my team and the role that we play come into play. We also have an updated corporate plan, in case you haven't seen that, take a look on our website. And we are looking at, creating a new vision and developing our work plan for the coming 3 years. So I'm not going to go into too much around this, but really we work with an ethos of community development within the team. We work to try and improve our residents' lives in a collaborative way. We like to ensure that we're promoting positive social change through the work that we do, which is in a number of different areas, from the cost of living, as Ollie's mentioned, to welfare, to the VCSE. So lots of different areas that we cover across, and it's about ensuring that we collaborate and bring all of that work together. So with the strategy, or the plan, or whatever you want to call it, really, we have developed 4 overarching priorities. These priorities have come through various pieces of work that we've done over the last 6 to 8 months, really. There was a cross-member working group. We have worked with our cost of living group, with our voluntary sector, various other people, and these are the draft priorities. So they're not fixed in stone. And we're bringing them here today to sort of have a chat with you guys really about, well, if you think they're okay, if they work, what we can. So the first one, we're looking at creating a skilled, educated and working communities. So this is really about the skills agenda, improving access to education and training, increasing education pathways, more collaborative working with our skills providers. And we have recently embarked on a more community-based projects around the skills. So some of those things are listed up there. Obviously, we're never going to tackle it, but we're looking to improve the numbers of not in education, employment and training. We're looking to help with that access to education. We know that there's an issue with non-attendance to schools, and there's various kind of makeups around this priority. Oops, sorry. Yeah. So growing healthy communities, priority 2. This is about sort of the health agenda and tackling health inequalities within the borough. We have built some really good relationships with our health and care partnerships and across the VCSE in this arena over the last year or so. So this is really about embedding that work and improving that area of work and really concentrating on those health inequalities that we know we're experiencing within the borough. Empowering stronger and more sustainable communities. So this is priority 3, and this priority covers off, well, it's about looking at the existing cost of living issues, the fuel issues, and that sort of day-to-day hardship that we know people are experiencing in the borough. We're working continuously with our VCSE partners to really understand that picture on the ground and work with people to collaboratively come together and try and look for ways to tackle these issues. And the last priority, developing strong partnerships for our communities. We are really passionate about working together. We don't think we can do any of this by ourselves. So we're very much about increasing and developing partnerships with all agencies that we can to ensure that we can kind of continue with our work. A lot of time has gone into the new Swell Voluntary Alliance, and we're keen to continue that work. Again, we are part of the Community Safety Partnership. There are various other partnerships that we sit on, but also it's not just about us being there, it's about us developing those linkages and those potential project opportunities. So this is very much a strand that runs through really all of the priorities that we're looking at. So, bit for you guys really. We've got the 4 key priorities up on the screen there, and I've got 3 questions for you guys really. Roughly, do we think these are the right sort of priorities? Have we completely missed something obvious? Do you think that there's specific issues that we might need to be tackling through these priorities? And are you aware of any existing projects and services that we could be tapping into? We don't like to reinvent the wheel. So this is about, you know, that collaborative effort. So over to you, Alfie.
Councillor Murphy first, and then Councillor Harris.
I think I'll just shout from the back this time. I'll stand up strong and project a little bit. I think those priorities are probably about, well, what empowering you is there for, like tapping into sort of the needs as they're called. That's a horrible word. At some point, that's going to be outlawed. And in terms of tapping into that, I think those 4 priorities are probably just about bang on. I think there's a project on the island called the Pyramid Project, and they do a lot of work with NEET. So I don't know if you're already working with them or not, but you are, so that's fantastic. I think one of the biggest issues, certainly on the island, is the lack of not the lack of infrastructure necessarily, although that is a massive issue, the lack of public transport. So it doesn't matter how much stuff you provide in like Sheerness or even over in Sittingbourne, because some people that live in Sheerness could just jump on the train. If you live out in the sticks in Eastchurch, Laysdown, even parts of Minster, and you're in that category and you don't drive, or maybe your parents don't drive, or you're disabled, actually accessing those services are a lot harder. So it might be worth tapping into. Tyrone, what's the name of that community hub that's in Laysdown? What's it called? I can't remember what it's called now.
Yeah, Sheppey East Community Hub.
Yeah, the Sheppey East Community Hub. It might be worth speaking to them, see if they can facilitate, and the parish council, see if they can facilitate office space to reach the really hard to reach, because otherwise the only people who are going to hit it are the people that don't need as much support as some of the people that are really ostracised and really stuck in different parts of the community. Yeah, that's my 2 pence on it anyway.
Actually, the community hub is quite available at the moment. They're always looking for people who are looking for space. It would be a really, really good place to set up.
Yeah, we use them for the One Spell Road shows.
Yeah.
So we go out and run our events from there. So I'll definitely speak to
Yeah,
them about that.
it'd be nice.
Councillor Harrison.
Along the hills with a couple of weeks and take original season. Our children on the island have been let down by the education system for many, many years. I went, as did at least one person in this room, to the Sheppey Comprehensive, as was. But since all these changes to academies and the rest of it, basically it's the community and no, we do exactly what we want. We're a law unto ourselves. We don't have to take any notice what the council says or anything else. And part and parcel of this is that they've just gone on with it. And one of the things that over at least 20 years has let down our children is the lack of any careers, advice and training. And very recently I was talking to somebody, one of my colleagues in one of my partnerships, who was actually from the NHS, was talking to a young person, and it was about aspiration and what your schools teach you. And this person turned around and said, well, I would really like to work in the NHS, but I'm not good enough. And I just thought, what a sad indictment, right? I don't have my own, but I've had little munchkins that I've looked after over the years. And I say, you can be whatever you want to be if you work hard and apply yourself. And it isn't just about passing exams. Some people are very good at passing exams. Some people are not. It doesn't mean you're stupid. It means you're different. But there is something for everyone out there. And more recently, which is why I got up to speak, I was talking to somebody in the NHS, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we do these maternity apprenticeships where you can actually, I'm really into apprenticeships and have been for years. You know, you can come as I don't know, maternity assistant. But there are so many roles in the NHS, which is crying out for staff, where you can come in as an apprentice and you can learn on the job. And yes, you probably could go to college if you were that way. Oh yeah, I could do that because you've had that little bit of experience of what it's all about. But over the years, our education facilities on the island have not promoted anything like this to our children. They have very much let them down. Oh, no, you're no good for university, so you're no good for nothing. Well, I'm sorry, but that is not good enough. And what I hope we can do in this Empowering Swell is actually build relationships with the 2 new places on Sheppey. And because, you know, we keep having high hopes and they're dashed, but let's have our high hopes again, that we can actually work with them on these things. Back to the maternity. I will be going down to the local one because I'm Sheerness and that's in Sheerness to talk to them and say, look, can I put you in touch with these? Because it's something they'd like to come along and promote. It might not be for everyone, but if one person says, oh, actually, I'm really interested in that, then that's a success story. And there's so many things that we can do just by talking to each other and including people and not actually dismissing people and saying, you're no good for university, you are nothing, because everybody is capable of doing something. Rant over.
Can I say something? This is Linda speaking.
Go ahead, Linda.
Oh, thank you. I didn't know if you were allowed to speak when you're in this lofty position. I'm Kent Community Rail Partnership, and for a number of years, I think at least 4 years, we've been working with the college in Sheppey, and one of the things that our community person, our sustrans lady, has noted is the number of students that had never gone off the island by train. Some of them not even gone off the island, but by train they definitely haven't. And we do training, travel training with them. And most recently, one of my colleagues, my new colleague, Vicky, she's super. She took a group from the college to Faversham to, I think there's, I can't remember, it's something gardens. It's a community garden where people with mental health problems and that they actually learn how to propagate plants and to cook, and they run a cafe and things like that. Anyway, I was meant to go, but I've not been very well recently, as you can hear. And it was one of the things that I didn't get the chance to go on. But next week we're taking another group of people who don't speak English, mostly whose partners work in England, but they stay at home. So it's largely women, you know, with young families. But we're taking them to Canterbury. And last Friday we actually did a communication session with them at over in Sittingbourne at I'm thinking of the name of the house at the moment. I'll think of it in a minute. With all the language that they need, you know, like double yellow lines and things like that. It was a fun activity. We did it over 2 hours, but there are a lot of things that stop people from actually getting jobs, and these are the sorts of things that we need to be doing, working on how young people can get to college. I noticed now the college have got a bike rack, and I have watched the kids are actually, young people actually using it. I think there were 5 bikes there the last time I was down there, which is great because there wasn't even a bike rack before. So we need to look at how young people get to work and to widen their horizons so that they realise that there are things that they can do and they don't have to be on the island, and that they can actually get to Sittingbourne, to well, not Maidstone difficult, but to Medway Towns and to Canterbury quite easily. And so that's some of the work that we do with the Kent Community Rail Partnership. And we are working right across the county. We're working on the Medway Valley line, and we call it the Downs line. It's a sort of Tunbridge area, that sort of area. But we have a range of projects, and they're all about getting people, not just young people, but people to open their eyes up and to go to places that they wouldn't normally go to because they haven't got any transport. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Next up, I've got Councillor Worcester.
Chair, through you, I would just support Linda's point in that we often or have twice had here Kent Police to talk to this committee, but not once have we had British Transport Police, and they are responsible for the safety on our railways. Mm-hmm. They are also responsible for the very disgusting statistic recently that have pushed violence against women and girls on railways up to their major priority. At no point have I heard British Transport Police being held accountable at a public meeting as to what their resources are doing to help support that. This is followed up by a conversation I've had with our neighbourhood beat officer at Sheppey College a number of years ago, where female members of our college are scared to use our train system because of the antisocial behaviour, the fragrant drug taking that happens on a regular basis, that is often reported to me. BTP will often take 50 minutes to an hour to attend a 999 call, and Kent Police can support, but for railway bylaws, it is BTP's responsibility, Chair. So if there's any way we can encourage them to a meeting, I think that would absolutely be in this island's favour. The actual point I wanted to make was that I'm all for a new strategy, but is there any way that the strategy can also reflect the lobbying power of Swell? Because at the moment we have a family club that is up and running on Sheppey that offers shamefully a couple of hours opening time and a couple of hours to service users, rather than that building being open, as like our children's centre in Sheerness, all day, every day, weekdays. It's offering an hour and a half's regular service with a bought-in service that is up for grabs on a monthly basis of another couple of hours. That is not acceptable to have that white elephant in that community being underused and being highlighted by KCC as an improvement and a reason why services are being pulled out of our children's centre. It is shameful that KCC are even looking at removing services from Seashell, considering Sheerness is the highest area of deprivation one. Is there anything Swell can do to increase our lobbying power, and can we be speaking in documentation to make sure that outside agencies like KCC understand that every child that walks through Seashell Centre saves that organisation money every single day, and absolutely poor budget management shouldn't be the reason for that centre having its services removed. Thank you.
Do you respond to that?
I think, take your point, Zoe, about the lobbying, and I think, and as you said this morning at cost of living, I think we do have groups that we can utilise. I think maybe we need to separate that slightly to the voluntary sector stuff that we're doing from the council. So we're just, yeah, there might be a bit of a line between those two, but I think that's something that we can vaguely comment on.
Okay, Peter?
Yes, I'm very pleased to agree with Councillor Harrison. Our education system was absolutely destroyed. We had the highest level probably in the country with the technical schools that then got people on the right road to get skills. And that was all destroyed by the trendies, frankly. And years ago, I mean, we lost the dockyard and everything else as well. So the island has never recovered from that, from the loss of the services. And obviously they're not coming back. But I'm very pleased to see the two new schools, but I shall be watching very closely to see that their standards are maintained and that they increase. And Sheppey College as well, I'm hopeful that they will get young people into training. We had ever so many skills here and they were all lost, frankly, by idiots. I didn't go to university straight after school with my 2 O levels. I don't think I ever got in. But I did go to university when I was about 40, when I needed to. So I did 2 master's degrees in a year. That's a Master of Science and a Master of Business Administration. So if you need to, you can do it, but if you're motivated, and that's the whole point. So I'm really hopeful that these new schools will actually start to deliver, because the island isn't a load of thickos. You know, we had world leaders in various things. I mean, okay, everyone quotes Lord Penny, you know, the atomic scientist. He came from Sheerness, and Sir Stanley Hooker, who became chief engineer, eventually of Rolls-Royce, but he turbocharged the Merlin engine because he'd studied fluid dynamics at the same time as my dad, who went to King's College London, but my dad was more clever than me. But anyway, that's the situation. So I'm hopeful that the education system will actually put us on a good stead. So I will be watching.
Thank you. From me, I want to say, I think with the education and health being the first 2 priorities, that sort of leads us well into our next section, which is the levelling up thing. But if you've got nothing else to...
Only just to add that if there are any comments or or questions or anything you want to contact me directly, then my contact details, Janet will share after. Thank you.
Thank you. You're free to go or stay. Excellent. So next up we have agenda item 7, which is the Shinnet Revival Project. I'd like to welcome Inga Lorraine, the Capital Project Manager, for anyone that hasn't yet met her. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone.
And Zoe.
Zoe
Yeah.
Henshaw, Capital Planning.
Nice of you, Elliot.
No, that's fine.
As Councillor Days mentioned, we're here to discuss this year's revival programme, which is a series of projects that was given level up funding. The programme consists of 3 projects, Beachfield, which is the expansion and improvements to Sheppey Healthy Living Centre, which consists of a GP surgery, the leisure facility, and Sheppey Matters, the charity. The second project is Sheppey College, which is due for an expansion to allow for additional curriculum and an additional intake of students. And we also have Master's House, which is the renovation of 3 disused garages into workshop spaces. And we'll provide an update on the programme. As I mentioned, we were awarded level up funding. Projects are progressing well. Level up funding report, which is a requirement of the grant, is carried out every 3 months, and we've recently done the Q2 24-25 report, which was submitted to MHCLG. We're on track in terms of the outputs and the outcomes that are the requirements of that funding. Beach fields in the public realm. This is an artist's impression of what it could look like. We're finalising REBA stage 4, which is the design stage of the project. And we are hoping to go to planning in January. So the planning application is currently being prepared. We also have a fortnightly temporary relocation meeting, which we're having discussions with our partners at the Beachfield location, the GP surgery, Circle Leisure operator, and Sheppey Matters on their temporary relocations whilst the construction works are conducted. We're working to keep as much of the leisure offer on as possible during the construction phase as well. We're looking to appoint the contractor at an extraordinary meeting committee in a couple of weeks. That was following a tender activity. And we're on to Sheppey College. Planning permission for Sheppey College was granted in September of this year. The car park transfer was complete, which is to allow for the works to be conducted in and around the Sheppey College area. EKC have a preferred contractor who's going to carry out the construction works, and work is due to commence on site in the coming days. There is a digger on site at the moment, just in case anyone's wondering. They're looking to relocate the gas mains to allow for the more intrusive works to commence. And we'll move on to Master's House. And again, artist's impression of what the disused garages will look like, which is pretty good. Planning permission for this was also agreed in September, the same committee as Sheppey College. We just completed a tender activity and we're hoping to appoint a contractor at the same committee for Beachfields in a couple of weeks. And work is due to commence in January 2025. And I'll hand over to Zoe for communications and engagement.
So as Elliot said, I'm recently come back to Swell and I have hit the ground running. So within the January months, we're looking at doing a consultation with local residents, and that will be both youth and with the elderly population. And that will be looking at items around the adventure golf that's going to be situated in Beachfield, as well as the outdoor gym space that we're looking to create in that sort of area as well. So that's something that's going to happen imminently. And we'll also be doing the newsletter. So sign up to the newsletter has been open since May, since I went away for 6 months. And now I'm back. I'm happy to say that the first newsletter should be going out this side of Christmas.
and that will be followed by bi-monthly newsletters, unless there's something that needs to be updated upon, in which case it will be a monthly newsletter to share important information down to our residents. So that would include in the December one, possible relocations that could be happening due to the building, and sort of upcoming events where residents can have their voices heard by sort of our design team, both at Masters House and at Beachfields. And then the operational comms, so I touched on that briefly. Obviously, there's possibility of displacement following the planning permission, which we're hoping will be granted in January. Once we have got that, we will just be able to feed down to residents where those services could be located. So obviously, we're very aware that this GP surgery, that we will have to start communicating the possibility of where that GP will be relocated to.
And I'll go on to the milestones and the forward plan. As I've mentioned, we're looking to appoint a contractor for Beachfields and Masters House in the next couple of weeks. The GP surgery relocation is due to take place in the next couple of weeks. Beachfields planning application is in January 2025, and then Sheppey Matters relocation also in January 2025 to continue their operations. A series of engagements, consultations in January and February, and that will include hopefully members of this group, as well as businesses and young people, which we know we need to target in terms of their engagement. And we are looking at Serco, the leisure provider will relocate to temporary cabins on the Beachfield site to allow for those operations to continue, and that will happen in February 2025. Masters House is due to be completed in April 2025. And then we have the Adventure Golf due to open in 2025 as well in the summer, and that should be quite exciting. And Sheppey College completion autumn 2025. And then we have the final in the project, which is Beachfield, which is the larger of the three, and that completion is expected in spring 2026. So we're on track in terms of the 11 Up programme. And from January, we should have quite a lot happening on site, all roofs and grounds, yeah, spade in the ground and lots of events around that. So if you have any questions on advertise?
So I think the milestones is really good to see. That's something we've really got to push. Obviously, communications, last time I checked on the dedicated Facebook page, it had something like 28 followers. So I think councillors need to help share that, as well as the rest of the comms team. I've got Councillor McDonald first.
Yes, thank you very much, Chairman. I'm very disappointed to see that an allocation for a large swimming pool has not been made by the council. Now that the economy of Sheppey is appalling, and has been for a long, long time. And a 50-metre pool would actually bring a lot of money in. I'm sorry, but it will bring a lot of money into the town. All you needed to do was to allocate the site, and that hasn't been done. I'm sorry, but if you want to disagree with me, then you can give me the facts, because Sheppey has been dumped on for years, frankly. A lot of this work, frankly, I'm sorry to say, is to carry out work on the sports centre that should have been maintained by Swale in the past and hasn't been. So I'm sorry, I might sound, but I am pretty experienced in business, and all we're asking for is the allocation of a site. Not for Swale to come up with anything, because you couldn't possibly do it in that thing. But I'm sorry, but there are no 50-metre pools available in Kent. So that's something that we could have latched onto and actually brought people in to derive a huge amount of income from proper various events that would be run there, and that would have been self-supporting. And I did suggest that we actually look at the possibility of doing not one of these silly heat pumps that don't work very well, but to go down to, and I did talk to the university in Glasgow, who are doing similar projects, where you go down to the hot layers, which are, believe it or not, 2 miles deep. But that's not a too expensive thing to actually do. And then you get free hot water, boiling water in actual fact. So that could have been done. They could have heated the whole swimming the whole sports centre as well. So it would have been a real plus. Now, maybe you don't understand them, that's fine, okay? I've got the experience, perhaps you haven't. So I'm not criticising, because you're trying to deal with government departments, and I know how difficult they are. The St Humphreys, I'm not very popular with the St Humphreys in Whitehall, but I don't care about that. Why do I need to be popular?
Just so we can move on, I think anyone wants to come in on the site.
Yeah, no, thank you, councillor McDonald. I don't disagree with what you're suggesting, because in an ideal world, I too would love a 50-metre pool for the borough. I think we just have to be mindful and take a step back and remember the reasoning for the grant to be awarded for this phase of life had very specific criteria around economy. And a standalone pool was not going to get us the money, which is why, if you recall, we had to look at what was possible within the 20 million that we received, which we know isn't going to cover a huge amount in this current climate. And I think there was a lot of to-ing and froing at the beginning as to what was the priority for this project in terms of outputs and outcomes that would satisfy government for that return. Hence why, at that time, the ability to use that money solely for the refurbishment or a new pool was not going to get us the funding. However, I've also mentioned, as we've been doing these updates through the last year, that there's always going to be, hopefully, other phases, and this was going to kickstart other phases of investment to the island. And we're constantly looking at what those opportunities are. And I think I've said previously that we're constantly engaging with Sport England around what funding they may or may not have, and how we would fit our priority and our aspiration for the island's swimming facilities into that. And that is ongoing. I have conversations literally last week around that. So it's not that we haven't forgotten it. 50-metre pools from a strategic Sport England funded point of view are not the way forward. They cannot be maintained. They're huge strategic sites, and only cities really have them. Not going to go in now into the wherefores of where a 50-metre pool gets located, but certainly we would struggle, regardless of our views of the island, to justify a 50-metre pool on the Isle of Sheppey that was going to get traction and the visits that would be needed for a competition pool. However, that doesn't mean we've given up the hope of trying to find investment to get a new or refurbished pool. That conversation, those investigations are ongoing at the moment. We always knew that, as I said, we were designing the dry side with the ability to connect a new pool potentially to the, and we haven't got the thing, to the, where the sandpit area is. So we have designed it specifically so that we can attach should we need to. So all of those things have been considered, Councillor McDonald, and I am with you on wanting to find a way to make that happen so that there is the opportunity to grab that investment. So I think that's why I was shaking my head, and I don't mean to be disrespectful to you. It's just that I just know from my experience of sport with Sport England that a 50-metre pool is just not going to happen. So there's no point in dreaming about it because it's just not feasible, I'm afraid. It's just too costly.
So as Emma said, the new pool is on the radar. You know, I'm vice chair of the Community and Leisure Committee, so meet monthly with Emma and Martin, and that's something that does come up. I think Emma's mentioned the site for the future, but I think we need to talk to the projects that government is expecting us to deliver. As has been mentioned, we've got 3 sites: Beachfield, Sheppey College and Masters House. So we need to speak to what we've got. We are on a track, you know, and that's the way we're heading. Unfortunately, we can't go back. So next up, we've got Councillor Nundy and then Councillor Worcester, please.
Thank you, Chair. I noticed when you went through the timeline, there was no mention of the tag active that we were told we were going to be getting. And I think that would be really good for the young people on the island to burn up a bit of steam, so to speak. And also quite a lot of fun for me, quite frankly.
Tag Active is coming forward, and so is soft play. And we're focusing around the consultation around the adventure golf and an external gym. So for those who perhaps don't have the provisions to attend the internal gym, there will be an outdoor gym that people can access, and we will ask for the local community to get involved in a consultation around that what they would like to see there in terms of naming and so on, and what equipment they'd like to see and use and make it accessible, but Tag Active is coming
Yeah.
forward.
So would that also include the Mooga as well, the multi-use games area outside?
So that was, so you have to excuse me, because
That was on the planning.
it was on the planning application, so as far as I'm aware, that's still part of the plan, is to do up where the tennis courts are, so that will be included. Having been on for a while, I'll have to take that back to our design team just to double check, is that we had to do value engineering with the current partners, just to see what we could fit into the scopes of work. 14 million sounds a lot, but actually when we drill down into it, obviously what we want to do in the centre and to make the centre robust and sustainable for the future, we needed to make sure that we prioritise that and delivering those functions to the outside area. But that's what I can get back to Janet with.
Is there going to be plenty of like disability access?
Yes.
And assurances that women are going to be sort of safe as well using, because I think there really should be a push for two things with that. The first one is getting disabled people active and involved in sports. I think we all love watching the Paralympics. Well, I certainly love watching the Olympics, love watching the Paralympics. We need to be encouraging our local community, regardless of their ability level, to be getting involved in sport. And I also think we really need to be encouraging women to get involved, because, what's her name? The woman that won 800 metres at the Olympics, absolutely phenomenal performance. Why can't we have more people from Sheppey going up to the Olympics? I think there needs to be a real provision for netball on the island as well, because what I'd really love to see, we've got a really good football team that played in the FA Cup thing a couple of years ago. We've got quite a good rugby team. We've got an upcoming women's rugby team. What I'd really like to see is a netball team, so that women on the island we can have that could actually play somewhere and have a regular hub, rather than having to use schools, and showcase the island, revive the island, if you will, to be the best that it can be.
In terms of the consultation, we are looking at a cross section of the whole of society. So that will be accessible in terms of gender, in terms of socioeconomic, and engaging those people in terms of what they would like to see on the externals. We know that some of the offers are set. So tag is set, soft play set, that's not going to change. Adventure golf is set. I guess in terms of future proofing, as Emma's mentioned about the building itself and possibly linking into we were to get the provisions for a pool. We are thinking ahead. So if there is an opportunity to do netball, it may not be part of this plan or this phase, but it's something that could be the catalyst for that. If you're saying that, you know, there's a need for that, or, you know, we can support it, that could happen as part of this project. It will help to kickstart lots more.
If I can just add to that, because I think separate to the LOVE project that we're focused on this evening, there have been conversations at different committees around the sports and physical activity strategy for the council, which is Martin Cassell. And I think you may be aware that obviously that is the focus and has done the need assessment on different sports, and that certainly has been covered. I think what I'm keen to see with the work that Councillor Jones is involved with and other members here around the new leisure contract. So whilst it's not part of LOVE, so I won't go too much into it this evening, we are members are very keen to make sure that any future decisions on the leisure contract moving forward, which is going to have discussions and have had discussion at the Communities Committee and will continue to, that the vision and the specification for that contract very much focuses on priority groups such as women and people with disabilities, Councillor Nundy. And actually, I would say that members are keen to make sure that actually any new contract does take account of those sorts of things, because it's so fundamental to the island, but borough wide as well. And so there are opportunities, I think, moving forward to make sure that anyone that should bid for, we haven't taken decisions on that, but should the council decide to continue or go out for tender for the contract,
we can be quite specific as to what sort of things the council are looking for, such as things like that. And actually, in my mind, I've taken away the positive conversations around the Vanessa's comments on the football schemes that the police run, because again, Serco or any other provider that we may want in the future, there are opportunities to look at whether there are synergies or links to make things like that sustainable moving forward. Because we shouldn't all have our little silos. It's all part of the one bigger picture, isn't it? So I think for me, I'm taking that away as well.
Thank you.
Councillor Austin, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just to comment on Councillor MacDonald's point first of all. Myself and Councillor MacDonald and there was a boat swimming clubs that operate on the island and come together already. And the hope is that we will be putting together a group which any councillor is more than welcome to come along to help work alongside SWAL and its positive push for a pool replacement, but also to look at leisure facilities on the island, because talking to Councillor Lundy's point, unfortunately, I do see what you're saying with the leisure contract, but unless those sports are at the top of our game when putting in that project, you can't just turn up and play it. The courts have to be marked out. You have to have the right size court, and we cannot support every single sport going out of that leisure complex. But what I would say to Councillor Lundy's point is that it is proved that team games are proved to develop young people's confidence and self-esteem. They support removing isolation from a community, and they actually help children focus on school and studies and coming together and acting in a more grown-up forum. That is taken as written for people taking part in sports like football that is absolutely active on the island. What we're saying here is that sports like netball at the moment operate out of the academy is entirely dependent on those families coming forward having enough money to do so. £6 a game is affordable for some families. It is not affordable for others. Having it operate out of a community asset like the leisure centre would be a strong indication that SWAL supports team sports and what it can do for the community as a whole, as opposed to the community that can just afford it. The actual point I wanted to make was on the Master's House application. I'm worried about it going to planning because just yesterday, Lordship contacted me and said, yet again, they've had another window put through for antisocial behaviour. Very concerning for me because obviously they've also said that there is already an allowance for CCTV and camera operation to go up to support that side of the building. I don't understand why, as members of SWAL, we would be asked to put through a planning application when we are not following up with basic infrastructure where we would then support that building initially. There's been a lot of public money put into that building, and to let it down on something as sad as us not getting our schedule in line, to put in a CCTV that's already been given the permission for, seems crass, actually. So can I get a reassurance that actually that will be a priority and it will be in place before that planning application is heard? Because I don't really understand why SWAL members would then go to planning and say, yep, invest another 10, 20, 30, 50,000 pounds in those workshops, only to know that we are setting that area up for more antisocial behaviour, where more public money is then got to be found to replace the glass or children running on the roofs, when we could do something about it now.
Just to clarify, the planning application's already been successful for Master's House. It's the tender activity in which to appoint the contractor to construct the workshops. I take your point around the crime and the antisocial behaviour and vandalism. We've been working quite closely with Denise, who's the chairperson of the Launch It. We know there's been issues across the sites, and we're working internally. We're trying to create a partnership around how we address, how we deter, and how we create a sustainable solution to the vandalism. I'm aware it costs quite a lot for the repairs, and we've spoken to Denise about that. We had internal discussions today about how we can get the cameras set up for Denise, and I've responded to her already. But there is a separate piece of work that is being done around how we engage young people. A lot of conversations happen tonight around that. You know, how do we make them feel vested in what we're bringing forward? It is for them. We're not thinking about the project in the short term. We're thinking about it in 10, 20 years' time. What is it going to be the catalyst for? And will it create a sustainable sort of buy-in? And, you know, we talked about the ambition and the aspiration of the islands about uplifting that. And so we're working quite closely with Denise, and I know it's frustrating. I did receive that email yesterday and this morning when I came in, and I thought, here we go again in terms of it's only happened a few weeks ago that something else happened. The contractor that we're hoping to appoint is very strong on social value. They came out in terms of, and I won't go too much into detail around the tender because it's not yet been approved in terms of the committee, but they had a really good quality bid, and their social value element we can capitalise on for a master's house. We can get them to put in those provisions, and we're hoping that they can work across the wider programme as a contractor to build in some really tangible social value elements. And that will be engaging young people, because the vandalism is being carried out by young people, and we need to understand why, and we need to look at how we can address it and deter it. We want them to feel part of it. They're less likely to want to destroy things that they feel is there for them. So in terms of the gym, you mentioned cost is an issue, economics and so on, but the external gym is there for everyone to use. And we have the Enerva gym, which is for the elderly, and we're trying to cover all bases in terms of demographics, but we'll work quite hard in terms of the engagement to get buy-in.
Could you include me in any correspondence regarding that?
With Denise.
Absolutely. And also, if it comes down to funding, then that is a shared goal between Slough and the Town Council, and I would certainly be supportive of a joint approach if funding is the issue. I wasn't aware that funding was the issue here. I think it was highlighted as a scheduling issue. But if it's funding is the issue, then we need to look outside, because we cannot keep expecting companies like Launchit to be interested in areas like Sheerness if we don't give them the right support in terms of problem solving that issue. If, for instance, the cameras were up and you were saying, actually, that's still happening, I'd be more understanding of that issue, because you're trying and you're touching all bases that needs to be got at. But actually, I think without that camera and without, you know, that provision put in place, it's more difficult for them to see that we're trying our best. And I know we are.
Can I just say, it's not funding around the cameras itself. It's already been funded for. It's just not been installed. In terms of the engagement, we are working with Denise, the police, and the gentleman who comes around and does the repairs. When I say it's costly for the charity to make those repairs. So at the moment, in terms of the budget, a lot is focused on the projects specifically. So unfortunately, we're not in a position to fund those repairs, and that's where it's quite frustrating for Denise, and I understand that. If I may, Councillor Jay, in terms of the Sheppey College with Councillor McDonald's, was that okay for you? Yeah,
Oh, yes,
yeah. I just wanted to go back to the beach field. I'll be very brief. It does cover the GP surgery. It's not just the leisure element. So I just wanted to assure you that there is a GP which will be more accessible and it will allow for more patient intake. And it's also Sheppey Matters is a charity that does, you know, valuable services across the island that we're also hoping to provide a newly sort of improved workspace for. So it will impact the community in more ways than one. The focus isn't just the leisure, it's the charity, and it's the impact that it has on the communities that Sheppey Matters supports and the GP surgery.
Is it possible for me to say something?
Yep, so Chris from Sheerness Town Council, go ahead.
Hello, thank you very much. Well, there has been a lot of consultation about this revival project, and a great deal, I think, rather disappointingly, of the consultation has not gone into the final plans, but a very small thing which I would like to see, part of the outdoor gym, would be one of those solid table tennis tables, which I've seen working really well in loads of different parks, mostly up in London. And I'm still really keen that there should be better access onto the promenade, and I'm sure that there should be a way of putting that in. Certainly that's been one of my main things I've always put in the various consultations. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. I believe we've got enough for a list for second bid, a third bid and a fourth bid. So we're just hoping the government will support us with that. Sarah Jane, I think you want to come in on this.
We haven't had this conversation yet, but just some of the suggestions that I was going to make is some of the youth groups and the activities, the arts and public realm stuff that exists on the island. We could engage that in the project so that those young people take ownership of that space and that thing. And bring them on, use them to create an artwork, or, you know, bring them into the building stage so that they can see it and really kind of engage with it.
It's just to elaborate on what Esther just said, so part of the consultation would be the adventure golf, and part of that would be there's a whole which is up for deliberation as to what that could look like. Have we hit the nail on the head with what we're going along the lines of? So we're looking at a historical adventure golf which focuses around Sheppey's history. So there's a Kingsbury Bridge possibly going in, fossils for like fossil beach area. But, you know, is that what young people and people on Sheppey want to see? Is that what people in Slough want to see? Or have we hit the nail completely off target, and do you want dinosaurs and pirate ships in this? So part of the consultation is around bringing in arts. Chris, I'm sure we'll have lots of conversations coming up in the future. And not now, no.
When I spoke to 40 children from Sheppey College a year ago, they were really positive about Levelling Up projects and the different activities because they're bored. And this should hopefully turn that around. There's nothing else. Thank you for coming. You're free to stay or go. And we'll move on to our next item, which is Matters Arising. You'll find the Matters Arising update report in the agenda pack. I'm going to open the questions on emergency planning. It's scheduled for April. It's originally scheduled for 18th December, but that was moved back because of the carbon literacy training. I'm wondering if we can ask the team that will be delivering emergency planning if we can move it back to, well, some point closer. We've got the winter where things seem to go wrong more often, so it'd be nice to see that training early. And I wonder if Councillor No wanted to say anything on Laysdown Parish Council.
Yes, so Laysdown Parish Council has been in court for a little while. We've been trying to work on getting it started again, getting the elections going. Unfortunately, that has not been very successful. So as a result, over the last 2 days, Councillor Moore and I have been appointed to Laysdown Parish Council. So we met for the first time last night. We only just got appointed to get things sorted. I have now gone public on Facebook with what's going on. We are trying to get people onto the parish council, trying to get it back in court again. Sorry, opposite. And in the meantime, we're just trying to get things done. There are a lot of outstanding bills. There are things to be done. We got to get the election process started again. Unfortunately, it's really run out of time for us to do the Christmas lights. We've been trying in the background, but because of the situation, we haven't been able to do it. So things are moving now. There's a lot of stuff happening today since last night. And there's already people who are interested in becoming councillors, so hopefully the situation will get solved pretty quick. But we'll see. It could be a couple months.
Thank you. Obviously, there's 4 other town and parish councils on the island that would help in any way they can to see Laysdown thrive.
Yeah, I've had messages coming out from all over the place, people offering to help. It's been really great. Lots of Christmas spirit going on right now. It's very much appreciated.
Okay, does anyone else have any questions or matters arising?
Just a comment, Chair, if that's all right. I
Go on.
apologise, I haven't messaged you tomorrow, but anything Sheerness can do, just reach out if you need us.
Thank you, yeah, we've got quite a few people and more than happy, if I've got any questions, I'm more than happy to.
Oh, that's
We're getting there.
fair enough.
The one thing actually that we need the most is a clerk. So,
Yes, both Sheerness have both been through that, actually. It's
yeah,
very difficult, but I think Elliot might be able to give you some decent account contacts for a bit of advice how to go about that.
the KLAC.
Yeah.
Apparently, actually, about a month ago, there were 4 people interested in one position, so we're trying to chase after the ones that didn't get in. So we've actually been working on this for a little while. We only had the first meeting yesterday, so.
All the clerks on the island actually have a little meeting once every month or so.
Yeah,
That might be worth saying to somebody to come in, that might interest them, but they're not on their own, if that
yeah,
makes sense.
yeah. So, with any luck, hopefully it'll get solved pretty quick. The main thing is, I think right now is to try to keep Facebook positive. You know,
Good luck, good luck.
Yeah, it's, we're trying to, encourage people not to be nasty.
If you find out how to do that, let us all know, please. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll see.
So just to tell people, the draft budget is now out for public consultation. A link can be found on the council's website. And I'd encourage everyone to take a look and respond by the deadline, which is the 8th of January. So the next item, agenda item 9, is the public forum. And I believe Councillor John Erdon would like to speak.
Thank you very much, Chair. So I'm Minister Parish Council, but mainly as an islander, I submitted 5 questions and was surprised that I think they've all been accepted. So through the chair, I'd like to ask them one at a time, or go through them all 5. Then I can sit down and listen to any responses. Is that okay?
Go ahead.
So question number 1, Barton's Point Coastal Park. What is happening to the lease agreement at the park, which has been vacant, as you know, for more than 2 years? Is the original business which was lined up to take over the park still interested? Question 2, Coast Road parking, an old chestnut. Can we have an update on plans for parking along the Coast Road, especially the shingle bank, which might be at risk of impacting our flood defences with the increased number of heavy vans parking on it? My own thoughts are that we should welcome camper vans, but the council should charge for overnight parking. Can I also ask for an update on plans to turn the grass area by the White House into a coach park, which I think this committee discussed previously? And can officers also explain why there are no car park signs encouraging drivers to park on that side of the road? There are height restriction barriers and a no overnight parking sign. Question 3, Coast Road safety, which was brought up earlier on tonight. What would the council like to see happen to make the junction with the entrance to Barton's Point Coastal Park safer, especially in light of the recent fatalities and 2 serious head-on car crashes? Now, my own feeling here is that some kind of light-controlled pedestrian crossing should be installed there. I know it's mad to suggest that on a brow of a hill, but as the speed limit is probably going to be extended, the 30-mile speed limit is probably going to be extended there, I think a light control would have the effect of hopefully slowing some of the drivers down. Question 4.
Are we going on 4? Carry on, John, carry on.
Yep, this is number 4. Sheerness Water Tower. Okay, I was glad to hear that the derelict water tower in Sheerness is now on Swale Council's Heritage Risk Register. I saw that bubbling around on social media this morning. Don't know whether that's true or not, though. Does the council have any plans to take over this once impressive building, which is part of Sheppey's industrial heritage, and help save it like the Dockyard Church? The landmark is now back on the market for either £500,000 or £800,000. Question 5, you'll be glad to know. The final question, tourism. How much money and resources is Swale Council spending on promoting the Isle of Sheppey? And is the Visit Sheppey website still part of Visit Kent? Thank you very much.
Please.
Thank you for the questions. I will feedback what I have had in response so far, but appreciate that we didn't have a huge amount of time for all of these. So it may well be that we have to follow some up after this meeting, if that's okay. So in terms of your question 1, Barton's Point Coastal Park and the lease agreement, the original interested party is undertaking a range of surveys, which have been requested as part of their planning application. As you know, it's an area of, importance from a biodiversity point of view. The surveys are seasonal and as such cover a large part of the calendar year, hence the temporary operator that's been put in place. The surveys go through to the spring of 25, so we'll be in a position to know more once they have been conducted.
Thank you. Can I ask a supplementary question of, sorry, what plans do they have for Barton's Point?
But I can't go into the detail of that just off the top of my head. So I think ideally it would be something of a tourism nature. But I think as per the request for all of these surveys, the site is quite rich in its biodiversity, and therefore with the changes to planning in terms of biodiversity net gain and with these certain criteria now expected at certain sites, we will have to see what will be permissible through planning application. And I think that will help us determine what is possible or not and what is feasible or not. So not answering the detail, but I think we're all keen to see something there. It's just what will be allowed, I think, and what people are interested in tendering for. Question 2.
Sorry, Emma, could I just ask, just on based on John's point, is there no interim plan? Because if there's no timeline for this contract coming forward, I noticed that both Faversham Country Park and Sittingbourne Country Park are offering really nice things this Christmas, like making reindeer, sustainable reindeer decorations and things like that. Surely, if this is going to keep dragging on, is there no room for an interim plan for Barton's Point where, like, you put a cafe back in the cheese, which is great news, but for example, residents still can't use the camping facilities and things like that. And it's a real shame that things are suffering down there because of the extended timeline. Maybe we could have a look at an interim plan for the venue potentially, especially around events like Christmas or Easter or things like that, that residents of Sheppey need that area to celebrate as a collective.
Don't disagree, and I think we will just need to be able to see, as I've said, see what's possible. It's a very different site, Councillor Worcester, and actually that should be celebrated. The amount of natural asset that's there and the protection that certain groups and agencies expect as a result. So I think we just need to see what's possible, but everything can be looked at, and that's part of the work that's been ongoing. I appreciate it's taken time, but that's we have to go through these steps. Question 2, coastal road parking. Short and sweet answer is that the Community and Leisure Committee are receiving a report on options to go out to consultation next Wednesday. So whilst that doesn't answer your question around no parking signs and the green bit, it does cover the options and having conversation about going out, well, the decision is about going out to consultation, which is what councillor Palmer alluded to at our last area committee.
And on the coach park element, it is in the service plan to be completed by the end of the current councillor's term, so by the end of, before the next borough elections.
Okay, when is that? So 4 years, 3 years?
2.5 years away from now, so it's, yes, it's in the service plan. And I have been chasing up separately on signage for this location because we want to encourage. I saw signs go up over the summer and I thought, oh great, you know, it just said free parking, and it turned out it was for the Masons event, and they unfortunately took their signs down afterwards. It would have been nice if they'd left them for us.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is, we're not encouraging people to use that other part of the land.
Question 3, coast road safety. I don't have a response on this one. I would suggest though that it's something that might have to be picked up by the Joint Transport Board, because obviously it's relating to highways, which is not within our remit necessarily. Water tower. Yeah. Another ideal world scenario, I think that is Councillor Nerden. I think the council doesn't have plans to purchase that site. And the CPO would take a significant time and resources to achieve, which, as you know, the budget of the council we don't have necessarily. So we will have to see how this plays out. I agree with you. I have seen it that it's on for sale, but I think we need to watch that space. Because I think you'll probably know that site's not straightforward in terms of ownership and who's doing what with it and where they are in this world. So I just I hesitate caution, but I watch with interest.
I think on the water tower, we need a group like the Dr. Church to come forward, preferably themselves, the trustees, as they have all the sponsors and friends and connections. But I think any further regeneration, you know, we've got the Luff projects, that is top of the list. You know, we've done Master's House. To me, that's the natural progression. But if a group comes forward and they've got the £500,000 to purchase it, I'm sure the council will offer any support they can.
And finally,
can I just say, wouldn't it be possible to do a compulsory purchase on it, because it is such a dangerous wreck at the moment, but it should be a fantastic asset.
So that was compulsory purchase was mentioned, and like I said, there was a group come forward. There's no point in council purchasing it and then spending bits of money all year mending the fences, you know, mending the boarded up windows, with nowhere for it to go. So I think the steps are, if there's a group set up to save it, then the council can look at what it can do and its resources to help that group. But without the resource, without the money, there is no way the council can push that forwards.
And in terms of tourism, the council does have a part-time social media officer that covers tourism, but as you might recall, a lot of the tourism work was when we had to reduce budgets and staff. That was something that was sort of realigned. I'm not going to say stopped, but resource did significantly reduce a couple of years ago. So we've got a 7 hours a week social media officer that helps with the visits to our website and social media accounts. And so promotion covers all 3 of the towns equally, and the rural areas where we've got within that resources time. Content on Sheppey is very much dependent on individual venues and attractions submitting their events and updated content to the officer, and this has been an ongoing challenge. So again, people want, you know, to please send through their information if they want us to help promote it. Visit Sheppey website has been morphed into pages on Visit Swale, which is directly linked to and hosted on the Visit Kent website.
I think on tourism though, obviously with the government cuts to Swale's funding, Swale is almost retreating back to delivering the statutory services that it has to deliver. Tourism isn't one of them. Obviously we all want to promote it. We all live here on this island. We all want to see it thrive. We've obviously got levelling up we've been talking about and other community projects. It is unfortunate that there isn't more resource for it, but there's not enough resource for anything, really.
We have had UK shared prosperity funding, and some of those projects are linked to trying to promote tourism within the criteria of that fund. So again, it's where we can find opportunities to link, then we will, because it's not that we don't consider it important, it's just these difficult decisions have to be made by members, and that was one of them.
Perhaps it's useful to share the group. I saw the list of projects that funded. I've got the list of them. Chris, it'd be good to share that to show what good projects have been delivered on the island. I'm not going to start reading off the top of my head because I'll probably get them wrong. Yes.
Thank you very much.
That's okay. I've got Councillor Donald first.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Yeah, just wanted to mention about the three corner site by the White House for coach parking, because historically that was always used for coaches, and as you probably realise, some of the coaches in London bringing families down. Okay, we know quite a few Orthodox Jewish families come down to go in the sea, and this year they had to, because they couldn't get the coaches in there, they had to dump the people off at the White House and then go all the way down to the coast, the car park opposite the ship on shore. So it doesn't work, frankly. If that was restored back as perhaps just as a coach park, it doesn't need to be surfaced. They always parked on there anyway because it's hard standing underneath, and that would be absolutely ideal. And then you can have these groups of people who, really do. Obviously, they enjoy going into the sea, and I think it's very important. But how it works at the moment, it doesn't work. Frankly.
Okay. Next up, Councillor Worcester, please.
Thank you, Chair. So I approached the social media officer with the opportunity that a volunteer position be made available, much like Faversham Town Council had a paid position available to support tourism on the island by looking at casting content from island groups and businesses back to the visit Sheppey. And that was taken up with the social media officer about 6 weeks ago. I've heard nothing back. And that's quite rude. I'd like a response if possible. And B, I think it's an excellent way to go because we're not looking at a paid position. There's no cost swell here. It's a voluntary position where somebody can get some really good experience working with the council, working with that sort of project management element. And it was built through a local parish council. So we're not even looking at an untrusted person. It will be someone vetted by the parish council that would benefit all the wards on Sheppey. If it's possible to get an answer, I'd be very grateful, please, because really I see very little reason not to support that. And then that would prove whether we need to make it a paid position or not. Because at the moment, Sheppey gets 2,000 hits on Visit Sheppey, as opposed to Visit Faversham that gets almost 200,000 hits, because I would imagine of the work that's done by that excellent officer position that is a paid position from Faversham Town Council. John, correct me if I'm wrong, sorry, I'm currently stats from the Community Development Forum. I might be wrong, but it's definite massive change from hits on the Sheppey element of the site to hits from Faversham, wasn't it?
It's in that area.
Gigantic. And if we can do anything to support that, then I think we should.
So we did have Chris Reed's proposal at the last meeting about all parish councils and town councils connecting up and having their own tourism officer. So I think that's something that the parish councils and town council need to get together in addition to what's been suggested. Councillor Nolan.
Yes, we have a tourist area on the island. It's called Lansdowne. We've got amusements there. We've got holiday parks all around us. We have beaches. We have areas for camper vans. But what we're not seeing is much in the way of investment into that, aside from the business owners. We've got a playground, the Spinney playground there, that's absolutely dire. And it's not even on the radar of the council because of the way the ratings work. Now, we get a lot of visitors to Leestown, a lot of people using this playground, so much so that the council says, oh yeah, it's being used lots. Well, yes, we know it's being used lots, but we're not getting any investment into it. I'd really like to see more on this. The other one is the Sheppey Light Railway project. Okay, this is a project that will bring tourism into the area and across the island. We need to be doing what we can to support them. Now, I know the KCC has been looking into it because their transport plan was ignoring it at the time. Hopefully they're looking into it more, but this is something that we really need to be talking about. If you want tourism on the island, this is the project that you need.
So I said earlier I wasn't going to name drop some of the projects that got funding from the external funding, free external funding pots, but Sheppey Light Railway had 2 successful bids into it, and Minster Parish Council have been helping it along the way because it's started in our area. And I've got Linda next to speak, and I wonder whether it's on along them lines.
No, it isn't actually. Just heads up on tourism. The Kent Community Rail Partnership for the last 2 years have been taking part in the Faversham Transport Festival. Very full on 2 days. An awful lot of visitors. We do promote Sheppey very greatly because a swell line going through to Sheppey, obviously. So if there's anybody that's got any brochures or anything, it's the 17th and 18th of February, of May, I think. Also, it's 200 years of rail travel for passengers this coming year. I'm personally going to go up to Durham to take part in some of the festivities, but we're hoping to promote some things, some birthdays on our line, and I just trying to think. I think it's the 1st of June is one of the railway stations. I'm feeling it's Queenborough, and the other one we're thinking about doing a birthday for is Sheerness. We're talking to the local college about putting something on, but if anyone's got any ideas, and we also will need some funding, so don't be surprised if you get an application for funding.
Thank you. A lot of what members have said here today, I think, reflects what I said earlier about the draft budget being out. So perhaps members can get their heads together with alternative ideas to fund some of these projects. I think we've more than done our 20 minutes on public forum. So agenda item 10 is local issues. Do members have any issues they'd like to raise on behalf of their residents or communities in general? No, excellent. Number 11, matters referred to service committees for consideration. We have none. And so this date's next meeting then. The next meeting is the 4th of February at 7 p.m. and the venue is to be confirmed. And I close the meeting at 21:00. Thanks for coming. Merry Christmas. Goodbye.
Ho, ho, ho.